You carry, within your very cells, a library you have forgotten how to read. You walk through your life feeling a strange and persistent amnesia, a sense that you once knew a secret of immense power, a secret about the nature of reality and your place within it. But the book containing that secret has been locked, its language erased from your conscious mind. For 3,000 years, this knowledge has been buried. Not because it was false, but because it was and still is dangerously true. It was buried by empires and priesthoods who understood a simple truth: a population that remembers its own divinity cannot be controlled. Tonight we unearth the library. We decipher the code. And you will see with blinding clarity why they were so afraid of you ever hearing this. If you have ever felt that you are more than this small, limited self, if you are ready to reclaim your lost inheritance, then take a deep and conscious breath. The seal on the tomb of your memory is about to be broken. Subscribe and join this excavation, because the knowledge we are about to uncover does not just change your life. It gives it back to you. Part 1. The phantom knowledge. Let's begin with that feeling, that phantom limb of the soul. It is a quiet, background hum beneath the noise of your life, a feeling you've likely had since you were a child. A feeling of having forgotten something of monumental importance. It's like waking from a profound, vivid dream, a dream where you could fly, where you understood the language of the stars, but all you can hold on to upon waking is the feeling of having known, while the details dissolve like mist. You feel it when you look up at the night sky. The hidden voice of your conditioned mind sees balls of gas burning billions of miles away. But your soul feels something else. It feels a pang of recognition, a sense of kinship, a deep and inexplicable homesickness. It is the memory of a time when you knew you were not just on the earth looking at the stars, but that you were made of the same substance as the stars, and that the cosmos was not outside of you but within you. You feel it when you encounter the perfect, almost mathematical beauty of nature, the fractal geometry of a fern, the golden spiral of a seashell, the hexagonal symmetry of a honeycomb. The mind sees biology and evolution, but the soul feels a resonance. It recognizes a blueprint, an intelligent design, a signature of a single divine mind that wrote its own principles into the fabric of creation. Your soul remembers being the geometer. You feel it most acutely in your own frustrations with this reality. The slow, cumbersome nature of the physical world. The immense effort it takes to turn a thought into a thing. The feeling of being a powerful creator trapped in a slow-motion, high-gravity environment. A deep, instinctual part of you remembers a reality where creation was instantaneous, where thought and form were not separated by the vast gulf of time and space. This frustration is not a sign of your impatience. It is the memory of your native creative ability. This phantom knowledge, this sacred amnesia, has been the source of the human spiritual search for millennia. We build our religions, our philosophies, our sciences, all as elaborate attempts to remember what we have forgotten. We create gods outside of ourselves because we have forgotten the God spark within. We develop complex moral codes because we have forgotten the simple, intuitive law of harmony that is our true nature. We search for power, for wealth, for love from external sources because we have forgotten that we are the source of all power, all wealth, all love. You have been taught to see this feeling of something missing as a personal flaw, a neurosis, a sign of your own inadequacy. The world has told you, you will feel whole when you get the right partner, the right job, the right house. And so you have spent your life trying to fill an inner void with outer things, only to find that the ache always remains. Today we honor that ache. We see it not as a void but as a homing signal. The emptiness is not a lack, it is a space waiting to be filled with the remembrance of what was buried. The knowledge was not truly lost. It was simply driven underground into the subconscious, into the mystical traditions, into the very stones and symbols of the ancient world, waiting for a generation with the courage to look for it. And the first step in the excavation is to learn the name of the master librarian whose library was burned. Part 2. The thrice great master, the ghost in the machine of history. In the official history of the world, the history written by the victors, his name is a footnote, a ghost. But in the hidden history, the esoteric history of humanity, his name is the foundation stone. He is Hermes Trismegistus. Who was he? The question itself is a doorway into the mystery. To the ancient Greeks, he was Hermes, the messenger of the gods, the winged god of communication, who could travel freely between the world of mortals and the realm of the divine. To the even more ancient Egyptians, he was Thoth, the ibis-headed scribe of the gods, the master of wisdom, magic, and writing. He was the one who recorded the judgment of the dead, the one who understood the secret laws of the universe. The name Trismegistus means thrice great. Why thrice great? The legends say it is because he had mastered the three great parts of the wisdom of the whole universe: alchemy, the operation of the sun; astrology, the operation of the stars, and theurgy, the operation of the gods. He was said to be the first great teacher, a contemporary of Abraham, who gave to the ancient world a foundational system of knowledge that would become the wellspring for all subsequent philosophies and religions. Was he a single man? Was he a god? Or was Hermes Trismegistus a title, a lineage of enlightened masters who carried the torch of this primordial wisdom down through the ages? The truth is lost to the sands of time, and in a way it doesn't matter. What matters is the knowledge itself, the corpus hermeticum, the emerald tablet, the principles that have echoed down through the centuries, influencing the Gnostics, the Neoplatonists, the medieval alchemists, the Renaissance magicians, the Rosicrucians, the Freemasons, and every other seeker of the hidden light. This knowledge is a coherent, elegant, and breathtakingly powerful system for understanding the nature of reality. It is a unified field theory of consciousness, a spiritual technology for personal evolution. And it is this very power that made it so dangerous. The Hermetic teachings do not ask for blind faith. They do not demand obedience to an external authority. They do not create a hierarchy of priests and lay people. Instead, they hand the keys to the kingdom directly to the individual. They teach that the human being is a microcosm, a universe in miniature, containing all the principles and powers of the macrocosm, the greater universe. They teach that the divine is not a being to be worshipped, but a principle to be understood and embodied. They teach that salvation is not a gift to be granted in the afterlife, but a state of gnosis, direct, personal knowledge, to be achieved here and now, through the alchemical transformation of the self. Can you see why this had to be buried? A system that places the ultimate power and authority within the individual soul is the ultimate threat to any system, be it religious or political, that is based on external power and authority. The priest needs you to believe that he is the intermediary to God. The king needs you to believe that his power is divinely ordained. But the Hermeticist knows that they are their own priest, their own king, their own connection to the divine. The Hermeticist cannot be ruled because they have learned to rule themselves. And so, the knowledge was driven underground. The scrolls were burned. The teachers were condemned as heretics. The elegant science of the soul was reframed as dark magic and devil worship. The library was buried. But the catalog, the list of its most precious books, was preserved in secret. And the first and most important book on that list is called The Principle of Mentalism. Part 3, The First Buried Secret, The All is Mind. Let us now unseal the first scroll. Let us read the first and most foundational of the 7 buried principles. It is stated simply, the all is mind, the universe is mental. Stop here for a moment. Do not let the simplicity of these words cause you to skim over their staggering, reality-shattering implication. This is the master key that unlocks every other secret. It does not say, the all has a mind, or, the all is controlled by a mind. It says the all is mind. This means that the ultimate reality, the substance behind all phenomena, is not matter, is not energy, is not empty space. It is a single, living, infinite, universal mind. The universe is not a great machine, it is a great thought. Everything you see, everything you touch, everything you experience, the chair, the tree, the planet, the galaxy, is a thought form, a mental creation held in the infinite mind of the all. You have been taught to believe you are a physical being living in a physical universe. A small speck of consciousness inside a vast, unthinking machine. This principle reverses that completely. The truth is, you are a thought inside a vast thinking mind. The universe is not external to consciousness. It is an event within consciousness. Now here is the second part of the key, the part that relates the cosmic to the personal. Your own mind is a microcosm of this universal mind. It is not separate from it. It is a center of consciousness within the one great mind, and it operates by the same creative principle. The law of creation is the law of mind. As the all creates universes with its thought, so you create your personal universe with your thought. This is the secret they had to bury. This is the truth they could not allow you to remember. You are not a victim of a random material world. You are the co-creator of a mental, responsive one. Your experience of reality is not dictated by external circumstances. It is dictated by the quality and nature of your own consciousness, your own thoughts, your own beliefs. Let's connect this to the physics we have discussed before. The quantum field, that infinite ocean of potential waves, is the universal mind in its unmanifest state. The act of observation, the act of a conscious agent collapsing the wave into a particle, is the act of thought. It is the mind focusing itself, creating a form within itself. When you hold a persistent belief, when you consistently think a certain way, you are acting as a center of observation in the quantum field. You are commanding the infinite potential to collapse into a specific reality that matches your belief. If you believe the world is a hostile, competitive place, you are commanding the field to show you evidence of hostility and competition. If you believe you are unworthy of love, you are collapsing the infinite potential for connection into the particle reality of loneliness. Your beliefs are not passive observations of the world. They are the active, creative commands that are generating your world moment by moment. Let us make this a practice. I invite you to close your eyes and become aware of the sheer creative power of your own mind. I want you to remember a time when you worried intensely about something. Something you played over and over in your head, imagining the worst-case scenario. Feel the memory of that mental state. Now, didn't that worry create a tangible reality? It created the physical reality of stress in your body, the cortisol, the tight muscles, the shallow breath. It created the emotional reality of anxiety. And very often, it created the external reality of attracting the very thing you feared, because that was where your creative, mental energy was focused. Your worry was a form of prayer for what you did not want. Now, remember a time when you were deeply in love, or completely absorbed in a creative project. A time when your mind was filled with thoughts of joy, of passion, of expansive possibility. What was the reality you created then? Your body felt energized. Your emotions were uplifted. And the world seemed to cooperate with you. Synchronicities appeared. Opportunities opened up. You were in a state of creative flow. The principle is the same in both cases. Your state of mind created your state of reality. You were creating your world with your thoughts. The only difference was whether you were doing it consciously or unconsciously. The reason this knowledge was buried is now blindingly obvious. A person who understands that their mind creates their reality can no longer be controlled by external narratives of fear, of lack, of powerlessness. They cannot be frightened into submission by a priest's story of hell, because they know they create their own heaven or hell within. They cannot be controlled by a king's laws of scarcity, because they know they can create abundance from the infinite substance of the one mind. To know that the universe is mental is to know that you are a creator. It is the first step in moving from being a pawn in the game to becoming the player. It is the key that unlocks the door of the prison. But it is only the first of 7 keys. Part 4. The second buried secret. As above, so below. Now we unseal the second scroll, and we find a principle that is both a map of the cosmos and a manual for your own life. It is the great principle of correspondence, encapsulated in the immortal Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, as below, so above. These are perhaps the most famous words from the esoteric traditions, often quoted, but rarely understood in their staggering depth. This principle teaches that there is a harmony, an agreement, a correspondence between the different planes of existence. It means that the laws that govern the highest, most spiritual realms are the same laws that govern the lowest, most material realms. There are not 2 sets of rules. There is one set of rules, one pattern, one truth, that expresses itself on every level of reality. The microcosm, your own being, is a perfect reflection of the macrocosm, the universe. And the macrocosm is a perfect reflection of the microcosm. To understand one is to understand the other. Let's look at the scientific evidence for this ancient principle. Look at the structure of an atom with electrons orbiting a central nucleus. Now look at a diagram of our solar system with planets orbiting a central sun. As above, so below. Look at the branching pattern of a river delta seen from space, the way it spreads out to meet the sea. Now look at the branching pattern of the veins in a single leaf, or the neural pathways in your own brain, or the shape of a lightning bolt flashing across the sky. The same fractal, self-repeating pattern on every scale. As within, so without. The universe is a great hologram. In a hologram, every tiny fragment of the photographic plate contains the whole image. You can cut off a tiny corner, shine a laser through it, and the entire picture will be projected. You are a fragment of the universe. Therefore you contain the whole. All the wisdom, all the power, all the creative potential of the entire cosmos is encoded within you. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a single drop. Now let's bring this down to the most practical, life-changing application. The principle of correspondence tells us that your outer world is a perfect mirror of your inner world. The below, your physical reality, your relationships, your finances, your health, is a direct, infallible reflection of the above, your inner state of consciousness, your beliefs, your feelings, your thoughts. This is why they had to bury this knowledge. Because it completely dismantles the illusion of victimhood. It takes the power away from the external world and places it squarely back in your own hands. You look at your chaotic, stressful life and you say, I am stressed because my life is so chaotic. The principle of correspondence says the opposite. Your life is chaotic because you are embodying a state of inner chaos. You look at your empty bank account and say, I feel lack because I have no money. The principle says, you have no money because you are holding the inner consciousness of lack. You look at your lonely life and say, I am sad because I am alone. The principle says, you are alone because you are living in an inner state of sadness and separation. As within, so without. The world does not happen to you. It happens from you. It is a mirror. And trying to change your life by manipulating the external world is like trying to change your reflection by yelling at the mirror or trying to paint over it. It is a frustrating and futile exercise. The reflection will not change until you change. Let us make this a living inquiry. Close your eyes and bring to mind an area of your life that feels stuck, painful, or out of alignment. It could be your health, your career, a relationship. See it clearly in your mind. Now, instead of focusing on the external circumstances, I want you to use it as a mirror. Ask this courageous question. What inner state of being is this external situation reflecting back to me? What belief am I holding? What story am I telling myself? What feeling am I embodying that is creating this as my reality? If your issue is a lack of money, look within. Is there a deep-seated belief that I am not worthy, or money is scarce, or rich people are greedy? Find the inner pattern. If your issue is a difficult relationship, look within. Is there a belief that I am unlovable, or love is always painful, or I must sacrifice myself for others? Find the corresponding inner state. This is not about blaming yourself. It is about empowering yourself. The moment you see the connection, the moment you realize that the outer world is just a feedback mechanism for your inner state, you are no longer a victim. You have found the cause, and the cause is within you. And anything that is within you, you have the power to change. The hidden knowledge of correspondence teaches you to stop fighting with your reflection. Instead, you turn away from the mirror. You go into the sacred laboratory of your own heart and mind. And you begin to change yourself. You change the belief. You change the feeling. You embody a new state of being. And you do this with the absolute faith that as you change the within, the without has no choice but to follow. The mirror must reflect the new face you present to it. This is the secret of all true magic, all true transformation. It is the law of your own being. Part 5. The Alchemical Twins, Vibration and Polarity. We have now unearthed two of the great principles. And as we continue our excavation, we find that these principles are not isolated concepts. They are interlocking gears in a single, magnificent machine of creation. Let us now examine two more, the alchemical twins that provide the how of transformation, the principle of vibration and the principle of polarity. The third buried secret is the principle of vibration. It states, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. This truth has now been unequivocally confirmed by modern physics. Everything in the universe, from the most solid rock to the most ethereal thought, is in a state of constant vibration. The only difference between different manifestations of the all is their frequency of vibration. Matter is simply energy vibrating at a very low frequency. Light is energy vibrating at a very high frequency. The entire spectrum of your experience, from the deepest despair to the highest ecstasy, is a spectrum of vibration. Your thoughts are vibrations. Your emotions are vibrations. You are a vibrational being, living in a vibrational universe. This principle is crucial because it transforms reality from a collection of fixed things into a fluid, dynamic symphony of frequencies. And if everything is frequency, then everything can be changed by changing its frequency. You are not stuck with your current reality. You are simply tuned to its frequency. To change your reality, you must learn to change your station. But how? This is where the fourth secret, the principle of polarity, provides the practical technology. It states, everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Opposites are identical in nature but different in degree. This is one of the most subtle and powerful of the secrets. It teaches that what we perceive as opposites are not two different things, but two extremes of the same thing. Heat and cold are not separate phenomena, they are both degrees of temperature. Light and darkness are degrees of light. Love and hate are not opposites, they are two poles on the single axis of relationship. Fear and courage are two poles on the axis of response to challenge. The hidden voice of the ego lives in a world of irreconcilable opposites. It sees love and hate as mortal enemies. It sees success and failure as two completely different realities. This is the illusion of duality. The Hermetic wisdom reveals the underlying unity. Opposites are the same thing, differing only in their vibrational frequency. And now, we put the two principles together to create the science of mental alchemy. If you want to change your reality, you must change your vibration. And you change your vibration by consciously moving your attention from one pole to its opposite. You do not fight the negative pole. You focus on and embody the positive pole. This is the art of transmutation. This is the practical magic that was buried. This is the technology for self-mastery. It is not about praying to an outside force to change your circumstances. It is about using the laws of your own being to change them yourself. If you are ready to stop being a victim of your own vibrations and to become a conscious alchemist of your own life, then recognize the shift. Click the like button. Let it be a declaration of your intent to master your own frequency. You are no longer at the mercy of the world's static. You are learning to compose your own music. Let us now practice this alchemy. I want you to bring to mind a state of being you would like to transmute. Let's choose a common one, the state of fear. First, identify the feeling of fear. It has a low, chaotic, contractive vibration. Feel it in your body. The tight chest, the knot in your stomach. Now, using the principle of polarity, identify its opposite pole. What is the opposite of fear? It is courage. Or perhaps, for you, it is peace or trust. Choose the pole that feels most resonant. Let's work with courage. Now, remember that fear and courage are not two different things. They are the same energy on the same spectrum vibrating at different frequencies. Your task is not to fight the fear. Fighting the fear only gives it more energy. Your task is to consciously raise your vibration along the pole from fear to courage. How do you do this? Through your focused will and imagination. You begin by asking, what does courage feel like? Inhabit the feeling. Remember a time you were courageous. Or imagine a person you consider courageous. Embody their posture. Breathe the way they would breathe. Feel the expansive, steady, grounded vibration of courage in your body. At first, the vibration of fear will still be there. But you keep your focus firmly on the pole of courage. You are tuning your inner instrument to a new note. You are changing the station. You hold the feeling of courage, you breathe into it, you amplify it with your attention. And slowly, miraculously, you will feel the alchemy happen. The low vibration of fear cannot coexist with the high vibration of courage. It begins to transmute. The energy that was fueling the fear is now being used to fuel the courage. You have not destroyed anything. You have transformed it. You have performed an act of mental alchemy. This works for any pair of opposites. You can transmute hatred into love, despair into hope, lack into abundance, sickness into health. This is why they buried this knowledge. It is too powerful. It makes you the master of your own inner world. And since the outer world is but a reflection of the inner, it makes you the master of your own destiny. A person who knows how to consciously change their own vibration can no longer be controlled by the low vibrational frequencies of fear, scarcity, and division that are used by systems of power to maintain their control. You become vibrationally sovereign. Part 6. The unseen architecture, rhythm and causation. As we delve deeper into this buried library, we begin to see that the universe is not a random, chaotic place, but an ordered, intelligent and predictable cosmos, governed by elegant and immutable laws. The next two principles we unearth reveal the unseen architecture of this divine order. They are the principle of rhythm and the principle of cause and effect. The fifth buried secret is the principle of rhythm. It states, everything flows out and in, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall, the pendulum swing manifests in everything, the measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left, rhythm compensates. This principle teaches us that the universe moves in cycles. Everything has its season. There is a time for expansion and a time for contraction. A time for growth and a time for decay. A time for action and a time for rest. The tides ebb and flow. Empires rise and fall. Fortunes are made and lost. The pendulum of life is always swinging. The hidden voice of the ego, in its ignorance of this law, is in a constant state of struggle against the rhythm. When the pendulum swings towards success, happiness and gain, the swing to the right, the ego clings desperately, trying to make it permanent. It lives in fear of the inevitable backswing. And when the pendulum swings towards failure, sadness and loss, the swing to the left, the ego resists with all its might. It despairs, it complains, it feels like a victim. It believes something has gone wrong. The Hermetic master, understanding the principle of rhythm, does not do this. The master does not try to stop the pendulum. That is impossible. Instead, the master learns to neutralize its swing within themselves. This is a subtle and advanced art. It is the art of achieving a state of mental poise, an inner equilibrium, that is not tossed about by the outer swings of fortune. How is this done? It is done by not allowing yourself to get too carried away on the upswing. When things are going well, you enjoy them, you are grateful for them, but you do not attach your identity or your ultimate sense of well-being to them. You know that this too is a phase. You remain centered, watchful. By refusing to swing all the way to the extreme right of emotional elation, you prevent the pendulum from having to make an equally extreme swing to the left of emotional despair. You learn to stand in the eye of the storm at the still point of the turning world. This brings us to the sixth secret, the principle of cause and effect. It states, every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for a law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. This is the principle that utterly demolishes the idea of luck, of accidents, of random chaos. It teaches that the universe is a place of perfect order. Every single thing that happens, from the falling of a leaf to the birth of a star, is the result of a preceding cause, and will itself become the cause of a subsequent effect. There are no exceptions. Most people live only on the plane of effects. They are constantly reacting to the circumstances of their lives, unaware of the causes they themselves have set in motion. They call it good luck when something they desire appears, and bad luck when something they dislike appears. The master, however, learns to rise to a higher plane of causation. The master learns to become a conscious causer, rather than an unconscious effector. How do these two principles work together? Understanding rhythm allows you to navigate the world of effects with grace and wisdom. But understanding cause and effect allows you to begin creating from a higher plane, setting in motion the causes that will produce the effects you desire. You do this by applying the principles we have already discussed. You use your mind, mentalism, to create an inner state, correspondence, of a specific frequency, vibration. This inner state is the cause. The manifestation of that state in your outer world is the effect. This knowledge was buried because it eliminates the need for an external, whimsical God who dispenses favors and punishments. It replaces the idea of divine intervention with the understanding of divine law. You do not need to supplicate. You need to understand and apply the laws. It takes you from being a child, begging a parent for a gift, to being a mature, sovereign adult, who understands the principles of work and creation and can produce their own results. It is the ultimate spiritual empowerment, and therefore, the ultimate threat to any system that relies on your belief in your own powerlessness. Part 7. The Creative Secret, the Principle of Gender. We now unearth the final, and perhaps most creatively potent, of the 7 secrets. It is the principle of gender. And we must be absolutely clear. This has nothing to do with the physical, biological sex of a person. To interpret it on that level is to completely miss its profound, cosmic meaning. The principle of gender states, gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. This principle teaches that everything in the universe is created and maintained through the dynamic interplay of two fundamental energies, the masculine principle and the feminine principle. These are not social roles. They are cosmic forces. The masculine principle is the energy of the will, of the active, projective force. It is the spark, the seed, the intention. It is the energy that gives, that directs, that focuses. It is assertive, positive, electrical in nature. Think of it as the yang in Taoism. The feminine principle, on the other hand, is the energy of the receptive, of the formative, nurturing force. It is the womb, the soil, the subconscious mind. It is the energy that receives, that gestates, that nourishes. It is passive in the sense of receptive, not weak, negative in the magnetic sense, and magnetic in nature. Think of it as the yin. All creation on every plane is the result of a sacred marriage between these two principles. One cannot create without the other. The masculine principle on its own is just unrealized potential, a spark that never finds a place to land. The feminine principle on its own is just fertile chaos, a womb with no seed. Creation happens when the masculine will projects its seed of intention into the receptive womb of the feminine, which then gestates and nurtures that seed into a manifest form. Let's see this in action. The creation of a universe, the all in its masculine aspect as will, projects a thought, a word, a seed of intention into its own boundless potential, its feminine aspect as the cosmic womb, the void, and a universe is born. The creation of an idea, your conscious mind, masculine, has a focused idea, a spark of inspiration. It impresses this idea upon the subconscious mind, feminine, which then works in the darkness to connect it with other ideas, to nurture it, and to eventually bring it forth into your conscious awareness as a fully formed concept. The creation of a child. The masculine seed fertilizes the feminine egg in the receptive womb, which then gestates and builds the form. The creation of your reality. Your conscious, focused desire, masculine, impresses a feeling state upon your subconscious heart space, feminine. The subconscious then gestates this feeling and, through the law of vibration, magnetically attracts the corresponding physical reality. This knowledge was buried with extreme prejudice, especially by the rise of hyperpatriarchal religious and social systems over the past few thousand years. These systems elevated the masculine principle, logic, will, control, aggression, and systematically devalued, demonized, and suppressed the feminine principle, intuition, receptivity, feeling, the body, nature, the subconscious. The witch hunts were, on a symbolic level, a war against the intuitive, receptive power of the feminine. The consequence of this imbalance is the world you see today, a world obsessed with doing, with forcing, with controlling, with conquering. A world out of touch with its feeling nature, its intuition, its connection to the rhythms of the earth. A world of sterile logic without wisdom, of power without love. To reclaim the knowledge of the principle of gender is to begin the sacred work of reuniting these two principles within yourself. It is to learn to balance your doing with your being. It is to learn to balance your focused will with your surrendered trust. It is to learn to honor your intuition as much as your intellect. It is to understand that you cannot force reality into being through sheer willpower, masculine, alone. You must also create a receptive, loving, trusting, fertile space within yourself, feminine, for the seeds of your intention to grow. To become a master creator, you must become whole. You must heal the ancient war between the masculine and feminine within your own soul. You must allow your inner king and your inner queen to marry, to rule together in harmony. This is the sacred marriage, the alchemical wedding, that gives birth to the golden child, the awakened, sovereign, and fully creative self. Part 8. The Great Work. The purpose of the principles. We have now unearthed all 7 of the buried principles: mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. And it is crucial to understand that these are not just 7 separate, interesting philosophical ideas. They are a single, unified, operational system. They are the user's manual for the most important process a human being can undertake. The ancients called this process the Great Work. What is the Great Work? In its simplest terms, it is the conscious, alchemical transmutation of the self. It is the journey of transforming the base metal of our ordinary, unconscious, animal nature into the pure gold of the enlightened, God-conscious sage. It is the process of consciously evolving from being a creature of the simulation to becoming a creator of it. The 7 principles are the tools and the laws of this great work. You begin by understanding that the entire work is mentalism. The transformation is not about changing the world outside. It is about changing your own mind. You use the law of correspondence as your diagnostic tool. You look at your outer life as a mirror to see what parts of your inner self need transmutation. You understand that the substance you are working with is vibration. You are changing the leaden, low vibrations of fear, ignorance, and limitation into the high golden vibrations of love, wisdom, and freedom. You use the law of polarity as your active method. You don't fight the lead. You focus on embodying the gold, knowing they are 2 poles of the same thing. You use the law of rhythm to work with patience and wisdom, understanding that transformation has its cycles of progress and apparent regression, of darkness and light. You use the law of cause and effect to consciously plant the seeds of your new self, knowing that they will bear fruit according to immutable law. And you use the law of gender to balance the active, willful work of your conscious mind with the receptive, trusting surrender of your subconscious heart, allowing the sacred marriage within to give birth to your new golden reality. The ultimate goal of the great work is to create the philosopher's stone. And this is the final secret, the one most jealously guarded. The philosopher's stone is not a literal object that turns lead into gold. That was the esoteric or cover story, given to the foolish and the greedy. The true, esoteric philosopher's stone is a state of being. It is the perfected human consciousness itself. To achieve the philosopher's stone is to have so completely purified and mastered your own mental and emotional nature that you have become a living embodiment of the divine principles. Your will has become one with the divine will. Your consciousness is no longer separate from the universal mind. You have achieved immortality, not necessarily of the physical body, but of the conscious self, which knows itself to be one with the all and is no longer subject to the illusions of birth and death. This is the true purpose of life, according to the Hermetic tradition. We are not here to simply procreate, to consume, to survive, and to die. We are here as an alchemical experiment. We are base metals placed in the crucible of earth, with the potential to turn ourselves into gold. The 7 principles are the secret formula that was left for us by the first and greatest of all alchemists. This is why the knowledge was buried. It is the path of self-salvation. It is the map that leads you out of the prison of religious and social control and into the boundless freedom of your own divine sovereignty. It teaches you that you do not need a savior because you have the power to save yourself. And there is no idea more dangerous or more liberating than that. Part 9. The burning of the libraries, the war on gnosis. Now let us ask the question directly with the clarity we have gained. Why was this knowledge so systematically, so ruthlessly, so violently suppressed? To understand this, we must look at the great turning point in Western consciousness, the historical moment when the path of gnosis, direct, personal knowledge, was conquered by the path of pistis, blind faith. Imagine the ancient world, the world of Alexandria around the time of Jesus. It was a vibrant, multicultural melting pot of ideas. The Egyptian mystery schools, with their deep understanding of death and consciousness, were cross-pollinating with Greek philosophy, with the Hermetic teachings, with Jewish mysticism, with the new, radical teachings of the Gnostics and the burgeoning Christian sections. It was a time of immense spiritual inquiry and diversity. There were many paths up the mountain. The Hermetic Gnostic path, the path of the knowers, taught that the human being was a divine spark, trapped in a flawed material world, and that liberation came through direct, inner revelation, through the remembrance of one's true divine origin. The kingdom of heaven was within. You were your own savior. Then a new force began to consolidate its power, the Roman Empire and its marriage of convenience with a specific literalist and dogmatic form of Christianity. This new hybrid power structure had a completely different agenda. The agenda of empire is always control. And you cannot control a population of individuals who believe they are sovereign gods in their own right. To build an empire, you need a different story. You need a story that centralizes power. You need a story that places God outside of the individual, in a distant heaven. You need a story that creates a hierarchy of authority, God, then his chosen king or emperor, then his appointed priests and bishops, and then, at the very bottom, the sinful, powerless masses. You need a story that says salvation is not found within, through gnosis, but can only be granted from without, through obedience to the church and the state. The Hermetic Gnostic teachings were the direct enemy of this new imperial story. They were a virus in the operating system of control. And so, they had to be eradicated. The burning of the great library of Alexandria was not an accident of history. It was the symbolic and literal climax of this war on gnosis. It was the deliberate destruction of the accumulated wisdom of the ancient world. It was the burying of the keys. The scrolls of the Gnostics were declared heresy and burned. The Hermetic texts were hidden away in secret societies. The feminine principle of divinity was demonized. The body was declared sinful. The direct, personal experience of God was replaced by the rigid dogma of the creed. The world was plunged into a dark age not just of learning but of the soul. The message from the new powers was clear. Do not look within. Look to us for your salvation. We are your intermediaries. We hold the keys. Obey and you will be rewarded in the next life. Disobey and you will burn for eternity. The fear of hell was the psychological weapon used to enforce this new program. And it worked brilliantly. For centuries, humanity forgot its own power. We became the sheep and we accepted the authority of the shepherds. We forgot that we were and had always been lions. This is the great tragedy and the great secret of the last 3,000 years. You have been living in the ruins of a conquered civilization, a civilization of the spirit. The feeling of something missing is the feeling of this conquered and buried knowledge. The hidden voice that tells you that you are small, sinful, and powerless is the echo of this imperial programming, still running in the collective unconscious. But the age of empire is crumbling. The old structures are losing their grip. And what was buried is beginning to push its way back up through the cracks in the concrete. The ghosts of the burned library are beginning to speak again. And you are hearing them. Part 10. The Epiphany, the living library of you. And so we arrive at the final, breathtaking revelation. We have journeyed through the dust of millennia, we have unearthed the buried principles, we have understood the cosmic war on gnosis that hid them from us. And now we must ask the final question. Where is this knowledge now? Is it lost forever in the ashes of Alexandria? Must we search for some hidden scroll in a desert cave? The ultimate secret is this: the knowledge was never truly lost. It was only forgotten. The libraries were burned, but the books were not destroyed. Because the real books were never made of papyrus or clay. The real library is you. The 7 Hermetic principles are not just abstract laws. They are the fundamental operating system of your own consciousness. The memory of this ancient knowledge is encoded in the very fabric of your being. It is in the spiral of your DNA. It is in the rhythm of your heart. It is in the creative power of your mind. It is in the silent, knowing presence of your soul. You are the living, breathing, walking library of Alexandria. You are the text. You are the secret. The entire journey of spiritual awakening is not a journey of learning something new. It is a journey of remembering what you have always, on a soul level, known. The principle of mentalism is not a theory to be believed. It is the truth of your own creative imagination, which you experience every time you have a thought. The principle of correspondence is not a philosophy. It is the felt sense of your own inner world shaping your outer experience. The principle of vibration is not a concept. It is the feeling of your own emotions, your own energy, your own state of being. The principle of polarity is not an idea. It is the experienced reality of your power to transmute your own suffering into wisdom. The principle of rhythm is not a dogma. It is the felt reality of the cycles of your own breath, your own life, your own heart. The principle of cause and effect is not a rule. It is the direct, observable law of your own actions and their consequences. The principle of gender is not a theory. It is the felt, creative dance between your own will and your own surrender, your own mind and your own heart. You don't need to find a teacher to give you this knowledge. You need only to become quiet enough to listen to the teacher within. The hidden voice that we have been exploring is not just one voice. There is the conditioned voice of the ego, the narrator of the simulation. But beneath it there is a much older, quieter, wiser voice. It is the voice of the librarian. The voice of your own soul, your higher self. And it has been whispering these truths to you your entire life, in the language of intuition, of longing, of resonance. The reason this ancient knowledge is re-emerging now is because a critical number of souls are ready to hear it. Ready to remember. The feeling of being out of place, that you have carried for so long is the librarian, gently tapping you on the shoulder saying, "It's time. It's time to wake up. It's time to come home to your own library and to finally read the sacred book of yourself." So the work is not to search for a lost treasure outside of you. The work is to become still enough to find the treasure that is, and has always been, inside of you. It is to close the books written by others, and to finally open the one that bears your own divine name. The tomb has been opened. The scrolls have been read. And the secret is out. You are the knowledge, you are the power, and you are the light you have been seeking. If this act of remembrance has stirred the librarian in your own soul, subscribe and continue this great work with us. For the dark age is over. The library is now open. And your real education has just begun.